All the machines are on. Last one.
Machines.
With the help of Hashem, we are learning today's 3 prakim Rambam. Hilchos Bias Hamikdash prakim Beis Gimel and Dalet. We are beginning with Perek Beis. Perek Beis is going to speak about the Kohen Gadol entering the Kodesh HaKodshim on Yom Kippur. We're going to speak about Kohanim entering the Heichel Dafka only when they're doing the Avodah. We're going to have many laws of Aninus. And we just also recently learned the sheet of the Rambam regarding when do we have Aninus Midoiraisa. And we're going to learn that even people that are not allowed to enter, let's say because of Tumah, could send their korbanos for the korbanos to be offered for them. Perek Beis has 12 halachas. Let's begin with halacha Aleph. Says the Rambam, Ein Kohen Gadol nichnas l'kodesh hakodshim. The Kohen Gadol can only, or he cannot enter the Kodesh Kodshim only ela b'yom HaKippurim liyom HaKippurim. The Kohen Hedyet shet nichnas b'chol yom. We're even into the Kodesh, not into the Kodesh Kodshim, but he can only enter the Kodesh, which means to the Heichal, for a Avodah, la Avodah. Halacha Beis, v'huzaharu kol ha'kohanim. All of the Kohanim are warned, shelo yikansel l'Kodesh, oy l'Kodesh Kodshim, shelo b'shas Avodah, shenemer, as it says in Achri Mois, v'al yovei b'chol leisa l'Kodesh. So Chazal say that refers to the Kodesh Kodshim. Then when the pasuk continues, be based leparoiches within the curtains, doesn't repeat the inside of the Holy of Holies. The Torah already says, "Va'al yovei b'chol leisa l'Kodesh." So this added mi based leparoiches is including the entire Beis Hamikdash. In other words, even a kohen who's allowed to enter the Kodesh can only enter the Kodesh for avodah, and not b'chol leis. Not you feel like you want to be close to God, you're going to walk in there. Walking in there when you're doing the avodah. Allah Gimel. Kohen shenichnas l'kodesh kodshim b'shari yomei hashana. Whether it's a kohen hedyet or a kohen gadol, or a kohen gadol, even a kohen gadol, even on Yom Kippur. Shenichnas l'yom HaKippurim, but it's not b'shas avodah, right? We are learning this Tavshin Pei Gimel. We just went through the Seder avodah that the kohen gadol would enter the kodesh kodshim 4 times. Not 5 times. He cannot enter if it's not one of these times. Then chayiv misa b'dei shamayim, as the pasuk says over there in Achri Mois, don't enter in order v'lo yamus. As it was explained in its proper place. That's the word. He's a kohen gadol. It's Yom Kippur. Doesn't matter. Chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. Halacha daled v'nichnas l'kodesh. Chutz l'kodesh hakodshim sheloi la'avodah. Interesting expression. The definition here of kodesh is outside the kodesh kodshim. What does he have to say outside the kodesh kodshim? Because we just learned in the Bayesheni, the Amma in between the 2 curtains, we did not know what location it is. It's not kodesh. It's not the 40 Ammas. Even there, anywhere. Sheloi la'avodah. Or you can argue, oh, it's really nice, even on afilu lishtachavois, even to bow down. So you can argue bowing down is avodah. No, bowing down is not avodah. Bein hedyet ben gadol. Wow, like that's called the reverence. The einachai, but the einachai misa. Shenemer, as it says, el pnei hakapoides, and the Rambam just said pnei hakapoides refers to the bias v'lo yamus, which I'm sorry. Pnei hakapoides v'lo yamus teaches you all kodesh hakodshim misa. But Val Sharam Bayis, yeah, you chayiv alav, but not misa. Halacha. Kohen shiyotzem min hamikdash b'shas avodah bilvad. Can you imagine leaving? It's like leaving the shul mitten the minyan in the Beis Hamikdash. Chayiv misa. Bein kohen gadol, bein kohen hedyet. Shenemer, as it says, me pesach oil moyed loy seitzu pen tomusu. Now, you're leaving is chayiv misa, yeah, b'shas avodah. Don't leave your avodah. This say to mivoy holim, and to leave in haste. B'pnei gzeirazu. V'chein zeh shenemer b'kohen gadol u'min hamikdash lo yitzei einoi el b'shas avodah bilvad. That watch lo yaniach avodah b'yitzei. Says that Rambam halacha vav im kain, that even if a kohen hedyet that leaves the avodas chayav misa, right? That's the general statement over there in Shmini Pesach Oil Moed Lo Seitzu. So why did you have to have another pasuk in Emor regarding the Kohen Gadol? Explains the Rambam, Shekoyin Hedyet, Shehoye Bamigdash, Ba'avoidasoi, during the Avoida, and God forbid he hears that what? Shemeis Loimeis, Shuchayv Lisabul Olav, Afapi She'ena Yoitze Min Amigdash, but Eina Yoived, because he's an Oinan. And if he did the Avoida, even though he began it b'mitzvah, he found out a middle. If he's an Oinan Midoid Isa, as we'll go over some details again, according to the Rambam, it's a very limited amount of time. Then, since he continued the Avoida as an Oinan, Chilul Abidasoi, regardless whether he's offering a carbon yachid, bein carbon sibur. However, in contrast, this is all explaining the question from halacha of Kohen Gadol oivid kshu oinen. A Kohen Gadol does the avoida even when he's an oinen. The Kohen Gadol, as we'll see, we know this from Shmidi, the Beferish story there, that he's not allowed to eat from kosher. Eating, no, but the avoida, yes. Shenemar in Hamikdash lo yetze v'lo yechalel. That's answering the question. Koloimer yeshe v'yaved avoida sho yoisik bo. Continue to do the avodah, and it will not become mischalelas. It won't become profaned. No one is allowed to leave the avodah, not when they're an oinen. When they're not an oinen, the reason why the Torah repeats regarding the Kohen Gadol and Hamikdash lo yeitzei is to tell you another nuance, that even when he's an oinen, not only should he not leave, but he should continue to do the avodah, and it will not become mischalelas. Kohen Hedyet that becomes an oinen, even though he's already in the middle of an avodah, has to stop that avodah. Now, amazing. Not because we have a explicit pasuk, but we have a kal v'chomer. I think about it many times says, from there we learned that a kal v'chomer is a doiraisa. What's the logic? What's the kal v'chomer? In bal mum she'oichel b'kotshim. Im avad chilel, right? A balmum is allowed to eat kosher. A balmum may not do the avodah, and that's explicit. It's his machalet oinen that cannot even eat kosher. And by the way, that even goes on the Kohen Gadol. That's the pasuk. That's a pasuk from Parshas Kisaveh. That part of the video is I never ate when I was an oinen. Is dinu sheichal. Very good. By a kohen or by Yisrael? By a kohen. No, very good. Like I was pointing out, that's in Vidui Meisers, that's regarding Meiser Sheni, that has a certain lesser amount of Kedusha, that even a Yisrael cannot eat Kodesh, meaning Meiser Sheni is already considered Kodesh enough. You can't eat it Baninos, but that definitely also includes any Kachim for, okay, now, Halacha Pisha Kohen Gadol. Let's go back, right? As Aaron HaKohen was told explicitly, even then, also lechol b'kotshim. Shenema, like Aaron responded to his brother, "V'chalti chatas hayoyim hayita ve'enei Hashem." Okay, nukud. Then another din that again, let's go with the Rambam. The Rambam holds that aninus midoiraisa ends at night. It ends when it's dark. B'chlal korbanos. Not the shlamim that has 2 days. Normally, karbanis, you have that day and that night. Right? Karban Pesach is an exception. That is a very limited amount of time, but normally you have a day and a night. If someone got forbid is an oinen, so we just learned he cannot eat while he's an oinen. Question is, when they divide the psar kachim, and it has to be eaten not only a day, they have the day and the night. It only becomes nicer if it's overnighted. Can you give to an oinen a chelik in the kachim? And he's, of course, only going to eat it after it get dark. You can argue, why not? After it's going to get dark, he's not an oinen. Rambam Paskins know that an oinen is so removed from kachim, even though you might have thought the erev you're good. No, you're not allowed to do that. Now, oinen she'avad, if he did avoida, which he should not have, the din is ain't like. Another rule regarding an oinen, he's not a tummy person, which means an oinen could be tummy, but his state of aninus does not make him tummy. Umuta liga b'kachim, afal pi shaloi tavel, shaloi osu maila ela ba'achila, aval b'negia hadehu ta'ir, as will be explained in Hilchos Shar Avos Hatuma. And we're getting there, by the way, not that far away already. Halacha test. Now, Nachamo, Ezu Oinon says that Rambam, Zeshe Meis Le Meis. From any of the 7 relatives for whom one is chayiv to sitting avelus, one is required to mourn, and Aninus is biyoim hamisa bilvad, and biyoim means the daytime of the day. Hu shenikra einan toira, like we just learned, when you mischalal the avoda, if you did it on that day. However, the laila, he's only an einan midivrei soifrim. What the Rambam is really saying is that since by night he's only an einan midivrei soifrim, he's not machalal the avoda. That's what the Rambam is trying to say. Halacha yud. If someone passed away and days had passed prior to the burial, says the Rambam, even though the burial did not yet happen, the Rambam still holds he's no longer an oinen midoraisa. Even prior to the burial, he's only an oinen midevreim. And a noy toifes leiloi. Because once someone is buried, then there isn't even aninus at night. If the burial, it sounds like, was after the day of the passing. So again, if they're buried b'yom hamisa, then you're still by night in oinen midarabanan. But here already a day went by. But since not even aninus midrabanan will be at night because it's after the day of the misa, so then the toivel v'oichel erev. Another rule: the yom hashmor keroiva. So we already learned this at the end of the cycle. Shmor keroiva we paskin is within 30 days of the passing. Shmor Nechaik is after the 30 days of the passing, with big halachic differences. If a person hears of one of the 7 relatives passing within 30 days, they have to do the proper shiva. So v'yoim shmor keroiva, and also as was the minig by Yidden, that people would be buried only for 1 year from the outset. And after the year, normally on the day of what we call the first yard site, they would undig, they would gather the bones, there will be malaka datzames, and then they would place the bones together with that family bones. So the day that your malaka datzames, which is hadeu kiyem akfuram, none of these cases is on the day of the passing. Shmor Karev is within 30 days, but not the day of the passing. So vaited she'enu toifes leiloi va'afilo midevreim lefikach toivel va'oichel va'kotchem la'erev avol yoim hamisa kshem she'oso lechal be'kotchem in ha'toira. Even if the burial happened on that day, not that, okay, no more aninus. No, on the day of the misa, even though there was kavura, at night, there's still aninus midrabanan. The only exception is Pesach. That what? That since midoy raisa, you're no longer an oinen. Pesach is a mitzvah say, for which there's the chi of kares. By Pesach and Milo, the most strict positive commandments. So there, the Rabbanan did not make that zera. So as we'll learn in Luchas Pesach. Halacha Yudav. Clear. This oval, it means after Aninus ends, that's when you enter the period called Avelus. He cannot even send korbanos. Forget about him not being allowed to eat it, right? We're speaking about him not being allowed to send. Afilu yain o yetzim o levoino. V'chein hametzoira einoi mishalech korbanosov. Kol zman she'einu roi lebiyam en hamachnem. At that time, ein roi lahakravo. But that's not the rule. These are exceptions. You know what the rule is? Aval hamenuda, for example. Yesh b'safek im mishalech amen mishalech. Lefikach, if he sent it and they brought it, nirtza. Furthermore, the halacha yud beis, the final halacha, to make sheretz. That's a classical tumah. That's probably very common. In other words, just to know, sheretz, only the 8 shrotzim, not any sheretz. It's not to be, the Eibush said 8 types of rodents, when they're dead, they impart tumah. The sheretz is an av. That means the person that touches or has another halachic contact with the sheretz is a bishoin, for which you need to do mikvah, and for kachim wait until at night. So to make sheretz, or an adol, even though they may not enter, but neshalchin as Karban is saying, They can send the korbanos and you can offer it for them. Chutz min Pesach. She'ein shoichten oisei altem sheretz. That was a very important sugya. People get confused. The parsha explicitly is speaking about Tamei Meis. That's the whole Bahaloischa, that we were Tameim Lenefesh. Many people say it connected to Atzmos Yosef. That's one of the areas where we see, at least from the Bavli, that the tzaddikim do impart Tumah, if that was the case. Okay, let's go right over here. She'ein shoichten oisei altem sheretz. Ve'ein shoichten ala oral Pesach. Not even if they're not there. You can't do it for an oral. Kamashi is what? Avol Tamei Meis. Ein makriven olive carbon klal until it becomes fully pure. Okay, we're moving on to Perek Gimel. Is going to speak about the mitzvah of sending out someone who's tamei from the Beis Hamikdash. We're going to learn about different levels of tumah and corresponding to the different levels of tumah. From how many machnas do they have to be sent out? We just learned recently that really the same system we had in the Midbar of Machna Shechina, Machna Levia, Machna Yisrael continues forever. As we learned, world cities have the din of Machna Yisrael. So a Metzoira, not only Yerushalayim and HaKodesh, has to be sent out from any halachically walled city. And then you have Machna Levia, as we're going to learn again many details about Tumah. We're going to learn about the din of Bia B'Miksas, or the Rambam Paskins, that as partial entry is called Shema Bia, and what happens if someone becomes tamei when they are already in the Beis Hamikdash? That's a very important topic. So no one entered there with tumah, but it could be anything. Can be a person can pass away in the Beis Hamikdash, and then people around them, if there was halachic contact, or if they were under the same roofed area, they can become tamei. Now what? They can be a dead sheretz. It's the holiest place in the world, but we know sometimes in the shul you have all these rodents. They want to come learn Torah. She had over here a few weeks ago. They come visit and they can get killed or they can die. So there's rules of how you must exit if you became tamei while you were already there. Perek Gimel has 24 halachas, beginning with halacha aleph. Says that Rambam mitzvah say l'shaleach kol atmei min hamikdash. Anyone who's tamei on all levels must be sent away from the Beis Hamikdash. She's quoting here a pasuk from Parshas Nasai. V'shalchu min hamachna kol tzarua. Now tzarua is like the worst. Amitzaira. V'chol zav and v'choil tamei lo nefesh tumas meis halacha beis. Now the word machna, right? V'shalchu min hamachna. The machna that we just quoted from the pasuk in Nasai is referring to Machna Shechina, and the Rambam wants to make it clear again, even though we have an Ezras Nashim, which probably felt like you are already in the complex, right? You're beyond the Soidik, you're beyond the Chayil. Ezras Nashim is not halachic hazor. It was Machna Shechina, the Rambam wants to make it clear, is only Mi Pesach Ezras Yisrael, and the main Pesach is what we refer to either as the Shar HaElyoin or Shar Miknar, and inside. The Rambam already paskined that the inside of the doorway is kilafnim, so the Pesach and including the Pesach. So Shemei Yanim, Shamet Soida Hazavu Tmei Meis, Shlashtam the Makam Echad. You might have understood that they are all the same. I mean, the Torah puts them all together, and of course they all have to be sent out of Machna Shechina. But it's not that that's the end of the story equally for the same. So the Torah writes in another place. It's amazing how here, like Ein Mugdam Amuchar. So there's another word that's written before in Pashas Tazria, but that adds to what we have later. Regarding the Mitzvah, it says Badad Yeshev Mechutz LaMachna Moshavoi. It has to be Badad outside the Machna. That refers to Machna Yisrael. What's Machna Yisrael again? From the Pesach Yerushalayim V'Lefnim. It doesn't only mean Yerushalayim, but in the context of our conversation, we have to speak about Yerushalayim. The point is that when the Torah says in Nasi, send out the Tzorua min HaMachna, I know that pasuk means from Machna the Shechina, but it doesn't only mean from there. Send them out from there, and from Levia, and from the pasuk in Tazria, outside the Machna Yisrael. Ma mitzvah shetumasi chamura. So therefore, also chamur shilucha mishaluach haveiroi. So now we extrapolate the following. Since we see there's something unique about Mitzvah, now Mitzvah is a Tumah Chamor. I'll give you one example. There's one din of a Mitzvah that if the Mitzvah enters a house and he lingers there for a certain minimum amount of time, he imparts Tumah to everything in the house. You don't even have that by a Tamei Meis. So there's certain things about Mitzvah that makes him the most stringent. And we also see from the Tazriya that he has to be sent out Michutz Gimel Machnas. So we learned the concept that the more serious the Tumah, the more away from the temple, and not everyone the same. Everyone is going to be different, corresponding to the level of Tumah. Which is Chutz Yerushalayim. And again, the Rambam is saying, why are we saying that the Mitzvah is the most Chamur? Why don't we say it Tmei Meis? No, not only because it's Tumah HaYotzei Megufay. And you don't find this in any other place. And we're going to learn this in we'll have a lot of dinim of Tumah and Tanasun in the Rambam. Right? He enters a home for, I forgot how much time, a very short amount of time. Everything in there becomes Tamei. Masha'en Ken Hazav does not do that. As stringent as a Zav is, and a Zav, you can argue, a Zav cannot even go to a mikveh. The Zav needs to have a Mayim Chaim. Doesn't matter. This he doesn't have. Halacha Gimel. Umeshalchin, Shtam Lohoid, we pointed it out last time. The Rambam doesn't speak about a Balkeri. Here. Umeshalchin Zavin, V'Zavais. And they're going to learn later. So it's some sort of unnatural or unusual seminal emission. The Gemara Nida tells us even the Zera itself is different from a Zav than from a normal Balkeri. If it happens once, you have a din of a Balkeri. If it happens twice, then you become a Zav Ketana. You have to have Shivas Nekiyim. You don't have to bring Korbanos. If you have a 3, right, then you become you have to bring Korbanos at the end. So the Zav is if you have it twice or more. The Zavos, as we'll learn in Ilchas Nida, a woman who gets her dam, but in her unusual time as defined by Chazal, in the 11th, not in the 7th. A normal nida, the yoldois. So they are not as chamur. So here also, even though in the Pasuk and Parshas Nasi, the Torah is speaking about the Zav, and the Torah mentions for them to be sent out of Machna Shechina, Emes. But it's not only from Shechina. Also Machna Leviyah, Chutz L'Shtei Machnois, which means Shu Chutz L'Harabayis. Now, why? How are they more chamur? How are they more chamur? Let's say than a Tmei Meis. Mipnei shehem mitamin hamishkav v'hamoishav and afila mitachas oevet. That was when they sit on something that was meant to be sat upon, meant to be laid upon, even if there's no contact. That becomes tamei as they are, which is also a big chumrah. They are an av. The bed, the mattress is also an av. That you don't have by a mace. A mace, first of all, there has to be more direct contact. And even when there is halachic contact, it goes down a notch. The mace is an av. Whatever he touches becomes an issue. So in other words, since he's more chomer than a tamei mace, makes sense that he should be sent out from an additional machna beyond the one that it says in Nasi. Now, halacha daled, the tamei mace, and even the mace itself, mutili kanis laharabayis. Shenemar the raya is hayikach Moshe's atzmos Yosef imay. Imay means v'machna leviyah. Good. So then we clarify that. So the pasuk puts them together in Nasai and Chazal based on the pasuk in Tazriya. They don't only include the explicit mitzvah. They have this logic that we include other tameim beyond machna shechin. Halacha hachel, which we already mentioned. I get the soidik, and after the soidik, you have the chel. Again, that wall that Rambam, if the girsa that we had was correct, that was a very tall wall. If I'm not mistaken, it was 10 amas tall. Hachel mishalchen mimenu goyim from the chel utmei meis ubayali nidois. Right, even though we just said that a tamei meis can be in machna leviyah and midoi raisa machna leviyah includes the makam hachel. Midoi raisa, the machna shechina only begins from shar nikna. But that was we learned this already. They made different levels of sanctity. And a person who's boyal anida, God forbid, even b'shoigeg, will become also tummy like anida, but they have this chumrah. Avol tful yoim, shenichnas l'sham, shekvar tabal, does not have to be sent away. He could enter the area of the chel. Halacha vav, ezras nasham. They made another chumrah there. The shalchan emenu tful yoim. So tful yoim is not sent out of the chel, but he's sent out of ezras nasham. Avol, but if you have a person that already not only went to the mikvah, but he already waited until it's night, even though some people, right, the 4 people that have to bring a carbon the next day, they are allowed to enter the Ezras Nashim. Not all like we mentioned. Let's see by the Mitzvah. The only way the Mitzvah got his kapara was because he was allowed to enter up until the Ezras, up until the Sharnikna. Shebechuser Kippurim already had head of Shimshon. The Isur Tulyem Machna Levia. You should know it's only with the Sefer. Halacha Zayin. The Ezras Yisrael Lefneim. Here, Afilu Michuser Kippurim Leikanis L'Sham, because Shadayin Leikar Taragamura, as it says in Tasviyah, V'Chipur Olah Koin, and only then V'Tohera, which makes it clear the Kapara and Tasviyah is the Karbanis. Right? The Mitzvah is one of the Michuser Kapara. Michlal Shadayin Leigomra Taros Halacha Eches. Hatamei, that has to be sent out of the Harabayis. So first of all, if he entered while he was already Tamei, he violates the Loisasev, for which, you walked in there. That's called the Lav Sheyesh Boy Maisa, Yechayiv Malkus. Sheneman, as it says, V'yotzel Mechutz Lamachna. That's a Machna Shechina. Va'al Yovi Lotecha Machna, is a Machna Levia. V'chein Mitzvah Shenech Zir Shalayim, also like Avol Emetzoida. Like we mentioned, the Mitzvah really has to leave any walled city, but not Malkus. Even though he's not allowed, because it says Bodod Yeshev, and that includes out of any walled city. Nevertheless, he's not going to be Chayiv Malkus. Now, the pasuk that we quoted is an Asay. For an Asay, you're not Chayiv Malkus. Halachetes. Nichnas HaMetzodah LaHarabais. Now, what did he do? That means that he entered Machna Yisrael, one violation, and now he entered Machna Leviyah. Each one is considered a separate violation, so you get the Shmoiner, or 78. Avol, Tamei Meis, or a Tvul Yoim, that entered the Ezras Nashim, and we mentioned Midoi Raisa, Ezras Nashim is just Machna Leviyah, right? So they're not violating any biblical violation, even though the Chachamim gave it a Maili Yisera. Oy Mechusi Kippurim, that entered the Ezras Yisrael, interestingly, and Mechuser Kippurim, that's also a positive. It's Midoi Raisa, he may not enter, but it's only a mitzvah say, not a lot. From Mechipur Olah Koin V'Tohera, Afal Pishein Oloika, Makanoise Makas Marcos. Halacha Yud. Ukashem Sheshiluach Tamei Min HaMikdosh Ba'asein. Kach Im Nichnusu. They also are violating Beloy Sasei. Shenemar Beloy Tamu Es Machaneim. That goes to Machnashkin. Now, Halacha Yudal. Ominayin she'eno eved ela im nichnas. But avol noga bo azora me achoyrecho patur. And there's a big logic to think that way, because Bechlal Tuma has a lot to do with contact. But not here, because it says by Yoledes, the words, the El Amigdosh loy soboy, not don't touch, don't enter. So we learned that all of the dinim of the shiluach, from all of the tameim, from whichever machna, the isur is on biyam, entering and not touching. Halacha Yud Beis. Tamei shenichnas lamigdash. So first of all, the mezid onush karus. Shenamar ve'im lo yichabes b'sarai v'lo yirchatz v'nosa avoinoi. Understanding avoinoi means karus, and therefore goes hand in hand. That if he entered the migdash, right, Shadi Ezras Yisrael, and further in this Shoygeg. So normally the rules are being a Chatas Kavua, but that's one of the three Chatois Oil of Yered at the end of Parshas Vayikra. It brings a carbon oil of Yered. Shenemaroi Nefesh Asasiga B'chol Dover Tamei. And the oil of Yered is like the most oil of Yered, not animals, birds. Those three dinim in the Torah of Vayikra is animals, birds, or flour. If he's, God forbid, completely impoverished. The Ein Chayav and Kodes, Oy Karben Ella, Ezras Yisrael V'Lefnim, which is biblical Machna Shechina. Oy Al Toisefes or Azorosh and Eskacha Kiddush Gomer Kamei Shabiyarno. So we just want to base on Chira Pedig Vav that we can expand the area of the Azara if indeed that was done. So it's not 187 by 135 as it was by Yeshem. If it became bigger, that's called Machna Shechina. But up until now, Ezras Nashim was outside the Azara. You're not allowed to go there, but you're not going to be chayv kodes, and therefore you're not going to be chayv a carbon oil of year. Halacha Yud Gimel. Beizeu atomish chayv kodes ala migdash. So the din is kol shenitma betuma min hameis. That what shahanazin migaleach aleihem, as we'll learn in Hilchas Nasiris. That's one category. So a Tamei Mace, that will invalidate the days of Nazirus. And if you remember, if I'm not mistaken, that if a Nazir touches a Revi'is that left a mace, even though it's in parts Tumas mace, he's not Megalech. I think if a Nazir touches Roiva Atzomais, he's not Megalech. No, even in Tamei Mace, there are certain exceptions for which the Nazir doesn't have to stop his days and shape of his hair. A real mace, full mace. Oy, sheyiga ba'adam oy bekelim. Shenitmu ba'oisam hatumay shahanazir megaleach aleihem. So let's go. If an Adam touches a mace, just to know the status, let's go into a couple of the numbers. So the mace is Avi voice. An Adam that touches a mace is an Av. If a person touches that person, he's only a Rishon. But since it's from the mace, that person is also going to be Chayiv Kodesh. Shareyu Sheni Lo Rishon Shenoga B'Meis. Now the word Sheni here does not mean Sheni Latuma. Very important. The word Sheni here then it means, in other words, the Rambam is making it clear. People are shocked. Why is this guy going to be Chayiv Kodesh? We're limiting the Chayiv Kodesh. The Tamei Shenichnas is only based for a Tamei Mace. No. If you are one off the Tamei Mace, Oy Shenitma B'Shar Avos HaTumos Shel Torah, as we'll learn. Like for example, a person who touches a dead sheretz from the Shemona Sheretz. In other words, the Chiyuv of Kodesh is not only if you are an Av, even if you are a Rish. Klal Shalom Halacha Yudal. Kol hatoon bias mayim in atayr. Any person who's obligated to go into the mikveh, chayiv kodesh al bias hamikdash, even after he or she went to the mikveh, if they did not wait until head of shemesh. Aval hamistame b'tumos min hameis she'ein hanozir migaleich aleim. Look at the irony. Like we mentioned, that I remember, if a person touches a kazayas of dam, a revius of dam that left a mace, they are tamei to the point that they have to wait 7 days. And they need to have the ashes of the paraduma. Doesn't matter. But the nazir will not be migaleich. Afapi shu tami shtuva shivam. Harei ze potter al bias hamikdash. Halacha tezvav. Chein hanugeyam bekelim shenogu ba'adam shenoga b'meis. Let's go even further. So meis aviyavois. Adam shenoga b'meis is an av. Kalim that touched that Adam, Kalim becomes a Rishon, Midoi Raisa. Now you touch those Kalim. Oy shenaga ba Adam, shenaga ba Kalim hanoigim b'meis. Here's what's going on over here. Afal pi shu tamei lo Rishon le'inyan truma u'tamei b'sar kachim. Even though you are tamei enough because you become a sheni, which means that you can now be metame truma, you can make truma puzzle, and you can make kachim tame. Nevertheless, it's too far removed. And then the Rambam adds, okay, fine. Nevertheless, you get makas mardus. Halacha tezai.
So there's like 3 levels of this.
Yes.
You're
just say the issue.
And then Malchus Mardus.
And then the Malchus that we learned at the beginning of the paper. Okay. Now, now you have to make something clear. That I just said, where was it? In Halacha Yud Gimel, if a person touches a sheretz, even though the Rambam didn't say it explicitly, maybe he did. No, he didn't say it. If a person touches a sheretz, he's chayiv to go to the bias. He has to go to the mikveh. The Torah says that in Parsha Shmini. So it must be, guys, that halacha tezayin is speaking about someone who brought the sheretz into the Beis Hamikdash without becoming tamei, because that's targeted in by the sheretz. Hamesit sheretz, you're not going to become tamei, only if there was negia. Speaking about someone who he or she is not tamei. They didn't have enough halachic contact, but they brought the sheretz into the mikdash. Oy shehichnetz adam tamei la mikdash. Right? Tamei mace is not matama b'masa. We have to learn the dinim in Shar Avos HaTumas. It's possible to do that without, because if you became tamei, then you're chayiv kares already. You're chayiv We're speaking about a person who did not become tummy. The issue is not that they are tummy. The issue is that they brought that source of tumah. For that in itself, you're chayiv kodesh. Oisheichnes Adam Tamei. Now the Adam Tamei could be has to be a Tamei mace. Very good. A Tamei mace is not Matam B'mas. Tamei mace is only Matam B'maga. The point always is that this Tezayin is that you're not Tamei, but you brought a source of tumah into the mikdash. Then for that you chayiv kodesh. Sharitima mikdash Hashem. Avol. Interesting, you didn't bring it in, but you threw it in. Even if these are kalim that touch the maze, they're an av, patam and akoris. But chayiv malchus. Shenemar, as it says, v'im lo yechabes, then v'nosa avoinoi. And what is that pasuk speaking about? So we have in Piyash Mu'alamdu, al rechitzas gufay anushkaros. And that is implying, but that for which you need kibbutz bigodov, then you're going to be chayiv malchus. Halacha Yud Zayin. Yirah li she'eno loike ela al bigodim, which become an av hatuma. Like we said, kigoyin bigodim shenaga bahen zeh hatame lameis she'ein av hatuma k'may she'yizbon. Avol beged, that's only on the level of a rishon. Now 1 second, which bigodim? It could go in bigodim shenaga bohem zeh hatame lemeis. Hatame lemeis, Danny, is an av. So how would these bigodim not a rishon? No, that's a rishon. Avol beget shu rishon. I'll tell you what the difference is. If a person is touching the corpse, and while he's touching the corpse, he touches the beged, that's when the beged becomes an av. Halal cherev areuke cherev. Halal cherev areuke mace. We right, and halal cherev doesn't only mean the sword. Halal cherev also means the bigodim. So then you're chayiv, but chayiv kodesh. But if the beged is only a rishon, im chnisim lemikdash eno like an olive, but makanas and makas makas. Halacha yuchet.
After they were after they touched the mace itself.
If I touch the mace, if I touch a mace, then I'm an av. If I touch bigodim, I make them into a rishon. If you brought those bigodim into the base of mikdash, you chayiv makas mardus, not the rice. Halacha yuchet. V'chein tamei. Another thing, shehichnes yadav lemikdash, he's going to be chayiv makas mardus. In other words, we say that bia b'mixas. Shema bia. V'chein kol atami ba'av u'avis atumis shall devreihem. And they fully entered, but the whole tumah is only midrabanan. Oisha achal icholim tameim, v'shasa mashkin tameim, and me eating tamei foods, my tumah is only midrabanan. With interesting shiurim that we'll learn. V'nichnas l'mikdash v'mezid penishit. Well, since my tumah is only midrabanan, I'm going to be chayiv makis madus halacha yutas. Tamei shenichnas l'mikdash. If he entered the Beis Hamikdash, but he didn't enter the normal way. He went derech gagois. He went through the roof. Pater shenemar v'lamikdash lo savoy, meaning derech bia chiba toira. However, v'afal pishu pater also makanoise makas martus. Afilu nichnas b'migdal haperech ba'aver. A compartment flying in the air. He was on a drone. Makanoise makas martus. Ben shenichnas b'migdal derech gagois. Ben shenichnas b'derech psachim. Because that's not the derech bia, the loy savay doesn't refer to this. Halacha kol makim shechayav al sdoimi kares v'al shegos and carbon. Here the din is im nimseis sham tuma b'shabbos. Then might see an oisa. What's the chiddush on Shabbos, my friends? Items that are tamei becomes muktzah when it doesn't belong in a certain location. But since the Torah is machayev for entering, it's that important for it not to be in the temple, then you remove it. And Mechlal, that's the whole siyum of Eruvin. When people think that Shvus b'migdash is a fast and hard rule that never has exceptions. They're wrong. Look at the end of Erev. In other words, we don't always say that since it's only a midrabanan, no problem in the mikdash. You have to have a justification. Sometimes they were very careful. Normally, the rule is it's only connected to the avodah, and many other exceptions, like we learned. Another thing. Now you have to remove something that's tummy, but you don't want to spread the tumah. So one of the dinim of tumah and tara is that any flat woodware never acquires tumah. So if you find that source of tumah, get it on a pshute kli eitz. It's not a kli. Unlike flat metalware, halacha is a kli. All right. Someone who entered the Beis Hamikdash when the Beis Hamikdash was tahar, that had tuma in there. For example, there was a mace under the oil ba migdash in one of the chambers. It can happen. I'm sure it happened. Someone passed away there. They pelted a kohen to death, right? He was takat tzeduki, but he was a tamei mace. So you have to understand the nichnas hu tachas oil. So here's the chayin. In other words, you entered there tahar, but you became tamei there. You became tamei there. Hadei zachayiv kodes sharei biyasei v'tumasei bo'im ka'achas. In other words, when you walked in, it's going to be different to the ending of this Pedic. Here, when you walked in, you became tamei. There's another scenario that when you walked in, there was no tumah there, and you were not tamei. After you were already there, then someone passed away. That's different. You're not going to be chayiv kodes. You're going to be chayiv kodes if you linger there. Here, there was a mace there, and if you didn't know, you're taka shoygik. So then you bring a carbon oil over your Nichnas lamigdash, then v'nit masham achar shemichnas, oy tima atzmi sham later b'mezid. So you're not chayiv kodes right away because you didn't enter while you were tamei. Eloma, you have to leave quickly. You might be boil. You know, there's two lashonos of being quick. Be quick and be hasty. Really be quick and leave the shortest way possible. Allah chavbeis for asur loy lishois. You're not allowed to linger there, or not even to bow down, or to leave a derech arucha. The Rambam will define what's derech tzara. Derech tzara means from where you are to the closest exit. That's called derech tzara. Derech arucha means you're going away that you didn't have to go that much space-wise. You can walk slowly going derech tzara and you're good. You can run l'derech arucha and you'll be chayiv, as you'll see. If you lingered there, or even if you did not stop, but you began to walk, but you went ba'arucha, afal pi shelo isham, oy shehechzir panav lehechel v'ishtachava. Afal pi shelo isham, chayiv kodes. And if you're a shoygig, maybe carbon. Now, lo yechzir panav, if you didn't turn around, but you bowed down derech yitziyase klapi chutz, then you're pater. Only if you lingered. Now, what's the shear of linger? Kama shear shiyasai, which is also called in Chazal shiur ishtachava, kedei likrois, the time that it takes you to bow down. I'm sorry, the time that it takes you to read the pasuk in Divrei Hayamim that vayichru apayim arza ala ritzva vayishtachvu v'hoidois lashem ki toiv ki lo olam chasdai, which is probably like 5 seconds. That's called shihiyah. And that's also called shiur ishtachava. Not the way it sounds, not the time that it takes you physically to bow down. The time that it takes you to read this pasuk in Divrei Hayamim is called shiur ishtachava. So if I turned around as I normally should, even though I bow down quicker than the shiur, I'm also going to be chayiv. If I exited, if I bow down while I'm walking out, lesser than this amount of time, I'm pater. Now,
it was an instinct.
It was an instinct, yeah. The meaning is, did they have the exit signs the way they have here, lahavdil, and every exit? I don't know. But if you learn the dinim, if you learn good the map of the Beis Hamikdash, then you know the closest, if you should know. Now here's the beauty. if you didn't linger, you're not bowing down, you're going to the quickest exit, but you're not running, not a problem. The opposite of rotz is not standing. Walking slowest is called halach akei b'tzad gudo, right? Not tiptoe. The way when the Chazal say that the women they want to attract attention is that when they walk, they just put the heel at the tip. They're taking the smallest steps possible. So then, afilu kolayim kulay. As long as you're moving, you're pater. Yatsa barucha. If you went through an exit that was not necessary, even if you ran, and v'dochach atzmai b'chol koichai, and a taka comes out that on your time, on your clock, the nimsa shiuzman shalach bayarucha was less than the shir asman that a person went b'derech tzara because you ran. Don't think just because you ran you're good. You're not good. Hoil yatsa barucha chayav. Now yatsa b'tzara, but you went slower than okay v'tzad gudo. V'halach ma'at, but v'amad v'shama'at. V'halach v'chazar v'shama'at. No single stop was the shir of ishtachava. But if you add up all these stops together, the Rambam says, Ein aloika. The shoygig, Ein maybe carbon. Because there is a doubt whether we combine the shir ishtachava, because in between the shir, you took another step. So therefore, chayiv midaraisa you won't be, but as usual, you'll be chayiv makas marbis. Today's third chapter, which is Pedic Dalid of Bias Hamikdash. Now we're going to learn about someone who's tamei. Aside of the dinim of meeting, you have to leave. You may not enter, and if you're there, you have to leave. But if you did the avodah, you're going to be mechalal the avodah. This is the chapter where the Rambam goes into detail that tuma is taket the chuya b'tzibur, but the word the chuya is meduyak, not hutra, but the chuya. Hutra meaning it's b'chlal not an issue. The chuya means there's an issue of tuma, but the avodah is even more important. But there's consequences when you say the chuya, like we'll see in a moment. If there's an option of doing the avodah with the yichidim of kahanim that were tohidim, you're chayiv to find the tohidim, because it's only considered the chuya and not considered hutra. And the raya that Rambam brings from Yechizkiyahu Hamelach, and this Pedic has 18 halachas, beginning with halacha al. Tomei she'avar b'mikdash. First of all, chilal avodas. Second of all, just for the avodah part, we're not speaking about the tuma part. Since betuma you did avodah for that, chayv yisavadei shamayim al avodasoi, and that's true. Afal pi shaloi shaha. Like guys, we learned in the previous chapter that if you're shaha, chayv kares. Kares is the more than misavadei shamayim. So we're speaking about a person that did not have the shehiyah. We'll give an example. How you can do the avodah with you're going derech tzara. You're not lingering. While you're walking with derech tzara, you stoke the mizbeach at a keli. You're chayv b'sevdei shemayim because you're a tamid that did avodah. Shenemar, as it says in Emor, that v'yinazru, that means drawing back. V'yinazru mikatchi b'nei Yisrael. Remove yourself. V'lo yichalalu Hashem katchi. That harezu hazara lo oived b'tumah. In the same parsha, so and now, so first of all, we established the source of Misvidei Shemayim, and now we have a klal, the whole lav for which you're going to be loikin alav. Now, why do you be klal need that? If the Torah says v'lo yichalalu, because that can be called the lav shabachlalois. No, it's just from having this lav in itself, you would not come to the conclusion Yechayiv Malkus, even though it's a lav sheyesh by Maisa, but because of the klal that if Yechayiv Misimudei Shemayim, you always will be Chayiv Malkus. Halacha beis. Afa pishim avad betuma. Ein Chayiv beis in Elam Malkus, as we just mentioned. Nevertheless, the Rambam writes this in the Sefer of Halachas. Echav hakoyanim. They never brought him to Beis Din. Ella Mitzi and Oisoi Lachotz in Williamsburg, go plates in a smoiche biyadam, and ve'ein memachin aleim bekach. This has to be explained, but that's how it was done. In other words, they were very, very vigilant when it came to Kohanim that are doing the avodah while they are tummy. Halacha Gimel. Now the question is, like we just mentioned, it's mamish b'chlal l'sayman. What's Kodesh is even worse than Misa b'dei Shamayim. So he gives an example. Was if you entered there b'tumah, you're chayiv Kodesh. If you entered when the tumah was already there, you're chayiv Kodesh. You entered Tahar. There was no tumah in the Mikdash. You became Tamei later, and you're leaving that Chetzara. And you're going, and you're not stopping. But ubi yitzi yasai, while you're walking, and you had a little piece of wood in your hand, and when you're walking near the mizbeach, you turn the limb over. You can do that while you're walking, and by turning it over, you hasten it's getting burnt up. That's part of the avodah, even though you didn't put it on. Shekol kedem avodah reu kavodah. Halacha dal, chen tamei, shetoval, and va'abad even before the night. In other words, you already went to the mikvah. Here, by the way, you're not chayv kodesh. That's another example, another explanation of you're talking about chayv kodesh because you're after the mikvah. Avidas psula, and you're only chayv misa v'dei shamayim. Shenema v'leichalu es elikeihem. And the Piyah Shmuel Lamdu that this pasuk is referring to someone who already went to the mikvah, but he's only at full yoim. Shadayin Tamehu. Shenemar, as it says, only Uba Hashemesh v'tohir. Michlal, that before the Uba Hashemesh, you're not tohir. Aval Michus Kippurim, which as we learned in the previous chapter and 2 chapters ago, also may not enter. No. Okay, very good. So Kodesh and Misa b'dei Shamayim is dafka not the same thing, and we have all of the different opinions. The Gemara speaks about it, the Rishonim speak about it. Kodesh stricter. Let's say the Bisman Bayis Rishon, if a person did not do tshuva and they were chayiv Kodesh, they would pass away when they were 50. They would not live further. And Chiyuv Misa b'dei Shamayim would pass away when they were 60. Kodesh can leave a person aridi. Aridi means a person can leave this world without having children. Or many Rishonim say, no, it doesn't mean that the children that he had will pass away, but from then on, he won't have children. Chiyuv Misa b'dei Shamayim does not affect your children. And other nafkaminas that we find. Okay. Now, Aval Michusi Kippurim Sha'avad, Afal Pisha Avidasei Psula, and the Chilel. Aber he's not going to be Chayv Misa b'dei Shamayim. Now, how do you know the Avidasei Psula? Shenemer, as it says, V'chiper Oleh HaKoyin V'torheter, here again. So from here we learned, and it'll be just to know very clear, the Rambam is quoting a different pasuk. The pasuk that on Allah Daled was Vayikra Chav Aleph. This is Vayikra Yud Beis. Vayikra Chav Beis is telling you that if you didn't even have head of Shemesh, that's even worse. Here we're speaking about a Mechus Kippurim. That prior to your kapara, Le'nikbro Taros, and which is why you're not allowed to do the avoida, meaning the avoida is psula, but you're not chayv misa b'dei shamayim. Leni pedek dalet bias hamigdash halacha vav kohen sho'avat, and only after he did avoida he discovered that he was already tamei. Now we're going to introduce, should have spoken it out before, this whole idea of the tzitz maratza. That's going to be a big part of this topic. And the Rambam paskins, the tzitz is only maratza if it's on the forehead of the Kohen Gadol, not if there's a tzitz in the world. Again, im hi tuma yedua. Tuma yedua means, in contrast to tumas tohain. We learned before, there's a very interesting halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Same tuma. If someone was buried in a place that no one in the world knew in the past they were buried in. Like the Rambam says that if someone was murdered 1,000 years ago, it's not Tumas Tohaim, because the Zajac knew someone passed away. No one was there. And they became buried over time, and no one ever knew. It was never known. There's going to be certain leniencies over there. But let's go with Tuma Yedua means the normal case. You didn't know. We're speaking about someone who was b'shoigig, but others knew someone is there, someone who imparts tum. So im hi tuma yedua, even though you did everything, you did not know you were tamei kol hakorbanai shehikrif psulin. Shaharei avodah chulin. However, here's the beauty. If Taka, you found out now that someone was buried there, but it's in the category of Tumas HaTohaim, the Tumah of the depths. So there's a special power of the tzitz that post facto, whoever brought those korbanos received the atonement. The tzitz is menatzah. The chol ha-korbanos shehikrev nirtz. No, there's two atonements that the kohen that did it is completely okay. Not even considered an Aveda B'Shoigig. Tzitz menatzah. Let's get used to the idea. And the Aveda was good. Before the Zrikas Adam. So this guy already now should not have thrown the blood. If he did it, still Hurza. Since it came from Tumas Tohaim, Shatzitz meratz al Tumas Tohaim, Afal Pishu Mezik. And we already explained Tumas Tohaim. We learned this together in the Zidus again. It means that no one ever knew. Only the Eibishter knew. No human being knew that someone was buried there. And then at some point they discovered it. Oh my God, someone was buried here. Look how it was. And could be the person was there for a day, could be the person was there for 5,000 since the Mabel. Doesn't matter. There's someone buried there. Halacha Zayin. Another din of tzitz meratza. The chein at tzitz meratza al tumas devarim akrevim. In other words, if something that was offered on the Mizbeach, not the coin, something was tummy, we didn't know about it. They threw on the Mizbeach something that was tummy. Since they did not know when it was thrown there, maybe we'll see soon. Even if it's known, if it was done, it's accepted by Hashem because of the tzitz. Shenemar, as it says, this is regarding Parshas Tzavos, the big day kahuna. V'hoya al meitzah aharon. And there's a certain power in the tzitz. The nasa aharon es avoina kachim. What are we talking about? And Aaron will carrying the sin means that you bring about atonement. That's what we're talking about. Avol eina meratz al tumas hane'echolim. If something was eaten betuma, there's no forgiveness or atonement because of the tzitz. V'lo al tumas adam shenitna betuma yedua. Another rule. So we are learning now really 3 applications of tzitz meratza. The last one in Halacha Zayin is, as we will learn soon in this chapter, that when it comes to korbanos whose timing is precise, you have to bring it on that day. Communal korbanos that have to be brought on that day can be brought even betuma, like the korban Pesach. The majority of the people are tabei, you bring it betuma. But the reason why it works is because since there is a tzitz on the forehead of Aaron, Hashem tolerates the tumah. If someone became tamei b'tumas hatohaim and they did not know about it, tzitz is meratza, and all meats, not that are eaten, that are burnt on the altar, post facto will be accepted by God because of the fact that Aaron HaKohen, or the next Kohen Gadol, is wearing the crown, the tzitz. Now, there is a question in the Gemara whether he has to be wearing it. There are many that are opined that no, even the fact that there is a tzitz in the world, but the Rambam doesn't say that. The einat tzitz v'natza elo b'zman shu'al mitzchay, quoting the pasuk in Tetzava, because it says v'hoya al mitzchay tamid l'ratzin l'nei Hashem. It's an amazing kind of tolerance. In other words, when Hashem sees a Kohen Gadol wearing the tzitz, Hashem can tolerate certain.
He has to think of it also.
Who has to be thinking about it?
Kohen. No?
Could be.
It has to be on his mitzvah, and he has to. I don't know.
Remember, so could be. Okay. Halacha test. Kol karben she'ein kavur leisman. Now that he mentioned the 3, one of the last of the 3 is the concept that whenever a karben is halachically being brought, even though there's tumah, there are times that it's allowed. But even that, the reason why it's allowed is because of the tzitz. Hold on, not every karben can be brought to tumah, even though there's a tzitz. So what is the criterion? Kol karben she'ein kavur leisman. Any karben that doesn't need to be brought today will not be doich Shabbos. That's the bimay adoy that Chazal say. Nor tumah. Because why do it today? Why do it when you're tummy? Do it when you're tired. Bring it tomorrow. And bring it the day after tomorrow. However, any carbon that has a fixed time, being carbon sibur, and it's not only carbon sibur, this is good, even a carbon yachid. Guys, give me an example of a carbon that's yachid, that has to be brought every day. We just learned chavite, kohen gadol. Kohen gadol has to bring every day flour offering. It has to bring every day. It's a carbon yachid, but it's kavur leizman. Doiches haShabbos, the doiches hatum. If you have to be doichetum, as we'll see in a moment. Veloy kol hatumay sudoicha. Now let's go doiches. It doesn't mean all tumas. It means only tamei meis, because this whole din that that tumah d'choyvet tzibur is learned from Pesach Sheni. Over here we're speaking about tamei meis. Halachi kol karbanis hatzibur. All communal carbonis have a fixed time. You're not going to find a communal carbon that can be brought anytime. And therefore, all carbonis simur are doichen Shabbos and tamei meis. Gavaldik. That's why people don't chap it's a carbon yachid. The Rambam is so organized. You always, from the Gemara, I remember carbon simur is doiche. Carbon yachid is not doiche tumah. No. The Rambam is saying it's not because it's a tzibur, it's because kavua lahem zman, and therefore the few carbonis yachid. The part that the Kohen Gadol brings on Yom Kippur is out of his pocket. Another good example. Part of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur is to be mechaper for his sins. He pays for it. It's a carbon yachid, but it has to be brought on Yom Kippur. That's also equal to the Tuma Duchuya, Tuma Meis will become Nitcha. Halacha Yudal. Chol carbon mehem. No. No, it's correct to say that Tuma D'chuya B'tzibur. First of all, the Tuma means Tamei Meis. D'chuya B'tzibur means that any carbon sibur will be nitcha, will be brought, because every carbon sibur is kavur lahem zman, but it's not only sibur, it's about kavur lahem zman. So if you have, there are some carbonis, I'm sure there are more examples, I don't remember that you have more, you have carbonis yachid, that kavur lahem zman. And there will be, if there was a Tamei Meis issue, then it's doicha. Halacha Yudal. Kol karben mehem shekara v'tum. Even though God allows us to bring, in these cases, a carbon, even though there's tamei meis issue, it can only be brought, but it can never be eaten. Yeah, everyone knows that Pesach. Everyone knows. That means if the majority of the people are tamei, when it comes to tamei meis, so you bring the carbon Pesach, but you don't eat it, but you brought it. Ein anechel. The parts of the animal that has to be offered on the altar is brought, and all of the rest has to be burnt because it became tamei. Now, so let's explain what does it mean doiches hatuma. Yet tamei meis tuma, we limited it. If when the day of bringing that carbon comes, either the majority of the Yidden are Tamei Meis, or the Yidden are Tahar, but the Kohanim that are here to offer the carbon, the Kohanim are Tamei, or the Yidden are Tahidim, the Kohanim are Tahidim, but the utensils that are needed to be used have Tamei Meis. It happened. I don't know how it happened, such a thing. And you can't get rid of it. Not take it to the mikveh. Kidding? Tamei meis. Tamei meis. You have to have the whole 7 days. It's going to be tamei meis. Do it. And once you're doing it, and not only that, everyone enters the azarim. This is the second time that we learned that there's a permit to enter the azarim b'tumah. What we just learned, the Nuchas Beis Abchira, is when it comes to the building of the Beis HaMikdash, the Rambam paskins. Of course, ideally, do it b'tohidim, kohanim tohidim. But if you don't have to build, you can build b'tumah. You have to appreciate what you built. You're in the Kodesh HaKodshim. Just the guys that were building it, they're not violating; they're building it. The second exception is doing the avodah, even entering the azara. Avol, but the Rambam says that's only tamei meis. Avol tamei b'tumah acheres. Any other tumah. The zavin, zavois, nidois, tamei sheretz, nevela, the chayotze b'hem. The Rambam doesn't mention balkedi. If I remember correctly, in the Gemara, balkedi is included in zavin. If that's okay. Anyways, lo yisasku boy. They cannot be involved in it. They cannot enter the azara. Afal pisha nase betuma. Ve'im avru va'asu oy nichnasu la'azar chayav kodes alabia umisa alavoida. Shaloi nitches ela tumas hameis bulvad. Halacha yudgim. Upesach sheba betuma. And therefore, v'dacha kutumei meis v'nichnasu leheichal. V'nichnasu leheichal. Do they have to enter the heichal? No. When we bring karbanos, we go into the azara. But once there was a permit given to enter the azara, if wrongfully they entered the heichal proper, they'll be pturin. Even though shaluta el azara. But why are they going to be pturin? Because you can't read the normal pasuk that we began in the last chapter, Pei Gimel, right? The pasuk in Parshas Nasai, el michutz lamachna teshalchom. If they don't have to be sent out michutz lamachna, so then they're not going to be chayiv a punishment for entering the heichal proper. Halacha yudal. Now, hoya mixas beis av tameim and mixas tohirim. The people that are in charge of bringing the carbon today, some of them are tohirim, even if they are in the minority. The Rambam is going to make the diuk now of the difference between dochui and chutar. You get the words? Chutar means it's mamish not a problem. Dochuya means it's a problem, but not bringing it is a bigger problem. So you say, I'm going to do that over the other, but it's only the chuya. The nafkamina will be, okay, the roiv are tameim. You'll do it betuma, but what you could do it betuma. But if you have a minority kahanim that are tired, do you have to make the effort to use the tahirim? Yes, you do. Afalpi shirumum tamei mates. Lo yakrivu ela tahirim. Ho yukol beis ha'af tamei mates. The Kohanim that are designated to do the avodah today, they're all tamei. You know what you do? From the same mishmar, bring Kohanim that were designated to work on the next day. They're part of the same mishmar. Let's go further. What happens if the whole mishmar is tamei mace? Even though there's a rotation system, we still say make the effort mechazrin al mishmara acheres. Im hoyu roiv hakoyanam namtsoim shemishlayim b'sman hakvot tameim. Then is where we say yasu b'tumah. Then we say Yasa B'tumah. Now, halacha tezvav. The question is, didn't you just say that Tumah D'chuya B'tzibur? Exactly. It's not mutar completely. It's only, the word D'chuya means you don't have an option. It's called Shasatchak. It's a b'di'evet. It's a lechatchila b'di'evet. It's a lechatchila, you do the b'di'evet, but it's a b'di'evet. Ain't doichen kol davar anicha elo b'makam she'efsher. And that's why even when you bring it, how did we get into this whole topic? The Rambam began about tzitz maratza. Tzitz maratza for three things: for tumas adam, tumas tohaim, for the meat that was offered on the mizbeach betuma, the meat was tamei, and then he said for tumah t'choy b'tzibur. So why do you have to have tzitz maratza? Because it's only called the t'choy. Hashem tolerates it because of the tzitz. Where do we get this whole concept from? We get it from the story of Pesach Sheni, Parshas Ba'aloischa. When it says, Vayhi anoshim, asher hoyu tumeim lenefesh adam. So why does it say, Vayhi anoshim? It's not needed. To emphasize that the only reason they were not allowed to bring the Pesach Rishon is because it was just anoshim. It wasn't the tzibur, it was yichidim. Only him if they were to make, implying that if for some reason the majority, tzibur means the roiv of the tzibur are to make maize, you don't bring a Pesach Sheni, you bring a Pesach Rishon. The opposite, the Tuma is tidacha mipneim, and they should be part of the Pesach even though the Tuma. So that's the ground zero. And from there we learn that if it has a fixed time Pesach, that's the Rambam's emphasis, not Tzibur. Of course, Tzibur. All Karbanis Tzibur has a Zman Kavua. But the criterion is that it has to be brought at a specific time, that it's going to be Doicha, the Tumah. Now, says that Allah Yudzayin, we're going now not to the Nevi'im, but to Ksuvim, where it says, Ki rabas bakohol asher lo yiskadoshu. There was a majority of the people that were not pure, and the Halaviim Al shchitas hapsachim l'choil loy tahor. Ki marbis ha'am Rabbas me'Ephraim u'Menashe Yisachar u'Zvulun v'loy hitaharu. And we're going to read more details in a moment. How that Korban Pesach was brought, even though there was tumah. So he's quoting, in other words, from Torah Shebechsav, meaning from the Chumash, from Baal Loischa, we have a Yashmuel Lamdu. Vayi Anoshim is the hint only when it's Anoshim, not called. And he's saying, but that story is actually written in the Ksubim. The problem is that when we record, this happened in the kingship of Yechizkiyahu, that when we're saying now tumah is the Chuya. I know it's not L'chatchila, but you can bring it, you do it. There, the pasuk adds, "Ki achlu as Pesach beloy kakosov." They didn't do it correct. Why did they not do it correct? Now that we just said tumat choy b'tzibur, and the pasuk is saying you about all these yidden that were tamei. So what was wrong? So what happened? Let me say about what happened over there is that the king, knowing that most people are tamei mace, he was ma'aber the year. He added an extra other. And he added an extra other not the way you're supposed to do it. That is, sadly, even though he added the month, they were still tummy. But that's okay. Not okay. It's okay once you come to that date, and most people are tummy, you take a word. When it says that they brought it, Beloy Kakosov was his attempt to prevent the Tumah Sibur. He was ma'aber the year. And he shouldn't have. So the loy kakosov was not regarding the bringing of the korban. It's for something that he attempted. He didn't even solve it. In other words, the sadness was it's going to take us a while to get used to the dinim of tumantara.
But if it's tchuya, maybe he should have.
No, that's what we're saying. You should. No,
then I get it. If it's tchuya,
you're explaining why he did it. Maybe that's why he did it, because he extended the tchuya that you can even do this. Or no. Anyways, let's go back. This sort of the Cholakol Yerushalayim. They decided last is a Pesach b'chodesh Hasheni. B'chodesh Hasheni does not mean Pesach Sheni. It means let's bring it in the next month. Let's give people another month to get their act together. Because and we already explained in Kiddush HaChodesh she'ein ma'abrim es hashana lechatchila pe'atum. First of all, Bachlal, there's reasons why you're ma'aber the year. Main reasons, secondary reasons. This is not any type of reason. So the whole idea of adding a month was beloy kakosu. Furthermore, halacha yudches, the final halacha. That she'iber Yechizkiyahu Melech es hashana, the date that he picked was not good. He did it on the 30th day of Adar. Now, we all know, right, Kiddush HaChodesh, that the 30th day could become day number 1. You cannot be ma'aber that anymore. So forget about the fact that he was ma'aber the year, which you're not allowed to do mepei atuma. You can't even be ma'aber you can't do it on the day that it's already the next year. And he made that into Chodesh Adar Sheni. And v'loy hoy deloy chachamim she'ei ma'aber b'yoyim zeh k'may she'b'yadam el Chodesh. That's why it says Notice the eating of the Pesach itself was kakosu. The steps that he took prior to try to prevent it coming, that is the kakosu. And really, he asked afterwards. He was told that he did something wrong. Okay, so he asked Farachamim and on all of the Chachamim Sheskimu al Ma'asav. Shenemar as it says, Ki Yispalal Yechizkiyahu Aleim Leimar Hashem Atoiv Yechaper Ba'ad, probably etc. You have to know the psukim over here. And the Neman said, God listened to his prayers. Vayishma Hashem al Yechizkiyahu and Vayirpol Chol Ha'am, meaning Shenirtza Korban. Bottom line is that when it's brought Betuma, even in this case, there was a ritzui of the Korban Pesach. The word ritz l'chayre goes on sits. In other words, maybe because he did things wrongfully, maybe we wouldn't even give him the heter. No, the tzitz is maratz. Gewaldig. Have it to be continued.
If it's a state of tumah for